The Wii is still, to this day, one of the most unique gaming systems of all time, from its standout library of games to its very unconventional controller. Combine that with the Steam Deck with its incredible amount of customization alongside its portability, and what you're left with is something truly amazing. Today, we'll be looking at how to turn your Steam Deck into the ultimate Wii machine, going through the setup process alongside some tips and tricks to truly emulate the Wii when it comes to its unique control scheme and overall feel. The control layout of the Steam Deck makes it almost perfect when it comes to emulating any console out there, but now found in the past with unconventional systems like the Wii, there really is no other way to emulate its unique motion controls and screen pointer that many games took advantage of. Which is why I decided to make a video detailing what I would consider the best possible way to emulate Wii games on the Steam Deck. With all that out of the way, let's first take a look at what you'll need to get started alongside going through the setup process to put this all together. Okay, so the first thing really goes without saying, but that is your Steam Deck. This is just a standard 64GB model, and next up is your dock. This is an unbranded dock, anyone will do really, but I do recommend making sure that there's USB 3.0 ports. You don't need them, especially for this video, but they just come in handy, especially when you want to use other things for the Steam Deck. But yeah, I've been using this particular dock for about 2 years now, so I can definitely recommend it, but any will do really. Anyway, next up, let's talk about sensor bars. This is going to be an interesting topic, but there's a lot of sensor bars out there. This is just a standard £3 one off eBay, but as you can see, a big difference is that it's a USB one. Now, the Wii and Wii U's typically had these older sensor bars, as you can see here, which have these like strange orange ports at the back. And we will be looking at an alternative method for this setup, but I do recommend going with the USB one since they're a lot more convenient, as you'll see later on. Let's say though, hypothetically, that you don't have a USB sensor bar to use with the Steam Deck. Now this might look weird at first, but what you can do is use an original sensor bar with a Wii or Wii U system, which if you don't know, actually sends information to the Wii remote. So what I mean by this is that you don't need literally anything else, you just need the sensor bar to turn on. So yeah, what I have to decide here is my Wii U. You can use a Wii of course, and we're just going to plug it into the back of the system itself, and what you'll see in a few moments is... there you go, on camera you can actually see the sensor bar infrared light up, which is a really cool thing you can do. And yeah, what we got here is a Wii U right next to the Steam Deck. It looks a bit goofy of course, but you can use it as a makeshift sensor bar if you need to use the pointer controls. But yeah, this is more of a comedic example, but if you do have your Wii or Wii U still hooked up next to your Steam Deck, you could probably get away with this kind of setup. But anyway, we're going to move on to another showcase. This is going to be something real quick. The Wii U gamepad actually has a built-in sensor bar, so if you wanted to, and this looks really silly of course, but you could have the Wii U gamepad next to the Steam Deck and just point it at the gamepad, and you can just use it for any game you want. I find the sensor bar is actually a bit better on the Wii U gamepad. I don't know why, probably because it's smaller, a bit easier to point at. Anyway, tangent aside, next up of course what you'll need is the Wii remote itself. This is probably the oldest Wii remote you can get, but there are newer editions that have Motion Plus built in. We'll be looking at how to hook up the Wii remote with the Steam Deck in just a few moments here. But of course, next up what we're looking at is the accessories. These are optional of course, but depending on what game that you'll be playing, you'll want the accessory for it. A lot of games use the Motion Plus, and a lot of games also use the nunchuck. Most games that have the Pro controller, you can probably just use the Steam Deck for. To be fair, this is just like a showcase, you don't really need the Pro controller. Turning on the Steam Deck itself, what you want to do is hit up settings and then scroll all the way down to Bluetooth, and then this is dead straightforward. I was surprised with how simple this was. You'll just have to hit up the sync button at the back of the Wii remote, and after that you'll just have to wait a few moments, and what you'll see is Nintendo RVL, which I'm pretty sure is the code name for the Wii, which was the Revolution. And that's the Wii remote right there. So what you'll do is you'll hit connect, which just selects it, and then boom, we're in. And you can actually just use this with the Steam's interface. You can actually just use the Wii remote as a controller. I was very surprised by this. I didn't expect the Wii remote to be compatible with the Steam Deck, but here we are. Now, one quick word of mouth before we get into Dolphin is you can do this in desktop mode, but I don't recommend it because it might ask for a code. And you don't need to put in a code, you can just do it in the gaming mode and then boot up desktop and it will be hooked up still. So yeah, that's just a bit of recommendation right there. But yeah, one quick warning, if you see these two lights on your Wii remote, that basically means there's an error. You can just take the batteries out of the back and turn it back on and it should be alright. But yeah, we'll just keep vibrating for some reason when it does this, so I recommend just doing that and you'll be alright. Getting into Dolphin right here, I'm just going to look at some recommendations before getting into a game. I'm just going to put the back on the Wii remote real quick. And so one thing I recommend with the Steam Deck itself is to go into the controller configuration on the menu and to set it to mouse only. This will make navigating the menus 100 times easier without using the touchscreen. And yeah, all you'll have to do is scroll up to controllers on the top right. So going into the controller menu itself, this is going to look weird at first, but we have it set to emulated Wii Remote, and the reason for that is because if you have it set to real Wii Remote, there's actually a few technical issues I've run into. For instance, the port at the bottom of the Wii Remote is useful for so many games. As you can see here with Mario Kart, it can detect the Classic Controller Pro on emulated mode. But if you have it set to real Wii Remote, I've had so many issues plugging in other accessories into the Wii Remote itself. So yeah, I recommend setting it to emulated Wii Remote, not real Wii Remote, which sounds weird at first. So yeah, just another example here, but it's detected the nunchuck straight away, and a big reason the real Wii Remote has issues is because it detects the accessory as an optional controller, not as one controller. So I highly recommend using emulated Wii Remote over this, because if you don't, you'll run into some issues. So yeah, I recommend hitting configuration and going into the Bluetooth Wii Remote profile. If you hit this and just hit save, you'll be good to go. But I did have this Reddit post on screen here, because without it, I would not have been able to make this video at all. So feel free to pause the video if you're having any issues setting this up. But yeah, major shout outs to this Reddit post. It completely helped me out and fixed so many issues I had. Anyway, after you've done that, just hit 1 and 2 on the Wii Remote. You will feel a vibration, which means it's synced up, and yeah, you're almost good to go. There's just one last thing you have to do. The last thing you have to do before you're all set up is to just plug in the sensor bar itself. Now this is really straightforward. All you have to do is put it into the port on the dock, and one thing that surprised me is that the Steam Deck will actually power up the sensor bar itself. And this setup is really similar to the tabletop mode on the Switch. So if you're familiar with that kind of layout, you'll be pretty comfortable with how it is set up on the Steam Deck here. But yeah, a brief tangent whilst I set this all up in the background is the Wii is such a unique system, and a big issue it kind of has is a lot of the games are still in like standard definition. So you'll notice as well playing games on the Steam Deck is that a lot of the games look surprisingly good because the art style is aged really well, so all it really needs is just a HD upscale, and these games still look as good as they did back in the day. But yeah, you've pretty much done it. You've turned your Steam Deck into a fully functional Wii. All we have to do now is plug the USB-C into the charging port, and it should give power to the sensor bar, allowing you to play pretty much any game you could want without any issues. But if you do have any problems doing this, feel free to hit me up with a comment and I'll do what I can to respond. Doing this myself, I've run into many issues along the way, which is why I wanted to make this video. But yeah, as you can see, the infrared lights have come on, and you can pretty much play your Steam Deck as a Wii. Okay, so now that we've hooked everything up, let's take a look at some games. So the biggest push for making this video was back when I tried the Dolphin emulator on the Steam Deck. I found that there wasn't really any alternative way to use the Wii's pointer controls that felt natural. So here we have Super Mario Galaxy 2. This game has you pointing at the screen to collect items and interact with the game's world. Even with the Switch port of Galaxy 1, I found that the gyro really wasn't on the same level as the sensor bar's pointer controls when it came to its accuracy. They were alright, but you constantly had to sync up whenever you would desync from the system, which would happen a lot. Of course, in this demonstration, I'm right up to the system itself to better showcase the Wii Remote functioning with the Steam Deck, but off camera, this setup is very comfortable and is similar to the tabletop mode with the Switch's kickstand. I forgot to mention in my tutorial section, but you can of course dock this whole setup to a TV and play that way in its original form. Another title that is still stuck on the Wii is the surprisingly good Dead Space Extraction. This is pretty much a light gun game which the system was somewhat known for, and I'm impressed at how well the graphics have held up on this one given the low power of the Wii. If you got into the Dead Space series through the recent remake, this is definitely worth taking a look at. Hopefully it gets an official port someday, but once again its unique control scheme really is built for the Wii Remote. Another really good example of the pointer controls is with the various menus in games. For instance, here we have Mario Strikers Charge. I tried playing this using an average controller, and let me just say, mapping the Wii Remote's buttons in a way that feels natural on a conventional controller is incredibly cursed. Anyway, so in this game in particular, say you have to save a striker shot, which are these flashy goals you can make. To do that in this game, you have to very quickly point at the ball and catch it for it to count as a save, and you have to do this multiple times throughout a match. It's examples like this that I rarely see people who emulate bring up. Using for instance a second analog stick to act as the pointer doesn't really cut it and feels either too sensitive or too slow. I know I keep harking on the Wii's unique control scheme, but it's moments like this in games that really make strange setups like this worth going out of your way for. Onto another game, and once again the Classic Controller Pro is mainly a showcase example. You can just map it to the Steam Deck's controls, but here we have The Last Story, a mostly forgotten JRPG made by the creator of Final Fantasy, and is once again stuck on the Wii with no re-release in sight. It's a fairly average title, but the unique team dynamic and combat does somewhat set it apart from a more traditional JRPG. The next game here is probably the most well-known title on the system, that being Mario Kart Wii. I'm definitely a casual, but I am familiar with the competitive scene this game has, and of course if you want to, you can go out of your way to mod back in the online for this game. Once again, I'm just surprised at how authentic all this feels. I know most people use the GameCube controller, but nostalgia can be a very powerful thing, and I definitely have a soft spot for the old gyro controls of the Wii. For our final game today, we have Island Flyover from Wii Sports Resort. Everyone loves this, and it really just speaks for itself. Using the gyro controls on the Wii Motion Plus to steer a plane around is surprisingly therapeutic. It's a good example of how you can still have that authentic experience on emulated hardware. There's no trade-off here. I'll always love this mode, and once again my main point here is just how incredible some of these games still are and just how one of a kind the Wii still is today. Despite how detested it was for the more casual approach Nintendo went for when it came to making games at the time, love it or hate it, I can at least appreciate the unique experiences it offered. I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again I'll try my best to respond to any comments since there was quite a few technical hurdles I had to jump over to get this all running myself. I just thought it would be fun to take a look back at the Wii and at the same time maybe help others out who found that using Dolphin on default settings just wasn't cutting it. But once again, any feedback on this video would be appreciated. Thanks for watching and have a nice rest of your day.